All right, so welcome to week 3. Before we begin this week, I wanted to do a little test, a little question. Wait, let me see so I can actually see everybody's hands if someone puts their hands up. There, okay. So I get this comment a lot of times at dinners and stuff, and you'll probably get the same comment. So I would love to see how you want to answer it now that you're starting to get an inkling about what this is about. So people might tell you, who are you to mess with a poor, sick man? You know, he just got diagnosed with cancer. You're making him believe in magic right at the time when he's most exposed and vulnerable. You're giving him empty hopes. How do you want to answer that? Anybody want to? Okay. Loreto?
Okay, so I think that the first thing that I could say is that, well, he has the freedom to choose what he wants to do and what approach to take. And I could say that's it. And if he's interested, I could invite him to see my website or one of your videos, or have a free session so he can experience what it is like to communicate with his unconscious.
Okay. Let's see. All right, Jamie. I just so Lori, you can get updated. Where I'm asking if someone tells you, this is a poor sick man. He just got diagnosed with cancer. You're just going to make him believe, and he's so vulnerable, and you're just offering him magic, and empty hopes. How would you answer? So, Jamie.
I think I would probably just say something like, it's really just about getting his body and his mind in the optimal space for healing, whether that healing comes from where that healing comes from is his choice, whether he chooses more natural methods or whether he chooses completely conventional methods or a combination of both. But what we're doing is really just helping him get in the right or the most optimal state for receiving healing.
Great. Okay.
We'll see. Is that going to change?
Perfect. Okay. Laura.
For some reason, my raising hand thing isn't coming up, so that's why. What I have said in the past to something like that is, well, regardless of the treatment that they take, what state of mind do they want to be in? Wouldn't they like to be in a peaceful state in their mind and body while they decide to take whatever type of treatment and go through this experience with that, instead of a anxious, nervous, what does the future hold? What does it all mean? It's like to allow them to be able to just have that calm peacefulness within them.
Good. Yeah. Good. And one more, Paul?
I think I just talked probably about, I've been studying a lot the mind, the body sorts of connections, and the latest research and even old research, scholarly, academic, medical research, ties that together, even if you use totally conventional methods. And plus I have personal experience with it. I'd just say it doesn't hurt. Why would it hurt to help more?
Mm-hmm. Great. And Lori, I saw you.
Oh, yeah, I was just going to say that what I normally say is it's a way of helping to empower them to assist with the healing process. So it actually gives them more power to have their healing lead it in a positive direction.
Good. Yeah, no empty hopes, no prying at the vulnerable. Okay, so to start today's session, it's about the law of polarity. And for you guys to get a visceral sense of what it means, I would like to invite you for a moment and you can do this with your eyes open or eyes closed, focus on your breathing. Notice how it kind of goes in really smoothly down your nose and your neck, throat. And how when you breathe out, it's a little rougher. And now I want to just invite you to decide if you like your out breath more or your in breath. Just notice that. And now, the one you decided you don't like as much, go ahead and get rid of it. Don't do that one. Just do the one you like. Insist. This is what's good for me. What does the body do? Do you notice that? I was trying to do it as I was preparing today's session. I think I selected in-breath, and it got to the point that I almost felt like my breath was trying to get out of my ears. You know, that's what the body does. It's like if you insist that you're only going to take one part of life, you know, that part is bad, but that part is good, same as your breathing, that you're only accepting one of the opposites. Your body is going to do everything it can to compensate for it. Okay? So, and that makes sense. When we think about the breath, it makes sense, right? But think about it in everything. Life is a balance of, you know, it's like when you take a cell and there's so many positive protons, you know, you need to have just as many negative in order to create balance. Or if they don't have enough of the negative, other cells will attach to it, you know, and I'm kind of generalizing here on biology because it's not my specialty, but it will, you know, others will attach to it until you create a full balance of just as many positive ions as negative ions. It's nature. But so is nature that in order to have light, we need dark. In order to have dark, we need light. In order to have anything, we need the opposites. Like you cannot be good if there isn't the contrasting bad. And unfortunately, we, you know, throughout our lives, we're taught, you know, we should be good, we should be this is right, and this is wrong. But life doesn't quite work that way. So let's take this further. We're all about peace, and yet we reject war, right? Yes, Sharon?
Oh, I just wanted to say a quote that I love dearly at this juncture, that I watched this movie, and I think it was Oscar Wilde. It said, if I kill my devils, my angels might die.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. We insist on one. We try to, you know, just say, I'm just going with my angels, you know, and what happens is if you don't accept the devils, the angels don't appear as well. Let's take this further. You know, we talked about the war and peace. Remember, one can't exist without the other, and I'll add to this so you can even see the science behind this. One can't exist without the other, and your body, universe, nature is going to do whatever it can to balance it out. For example, if you only want to be efficient, you always want to be doing things all the time. You always want to be perfect in everything, right? And you reject being lazy. I'm going to give you I'm going to share something. I'm going to give you a little, I did this by hand, but that's how life would balance things out, right? The yin and the yang, within the one is the other. This is how we usually live. Do you see that? I'm not sure if my thing went up as well. That we have a lot of doing, we do a lot of doing, taskmaster, A-type personalities, we only sleep 4 hours a day, and even in that sleep, we might wake up and do something, send an email. Remember one friend was telling me that she sleeps with her phone, phone, so if anybody puts something on Facebook, she can answer. It's like ridiculous. But you get the sense, right? We think, we're not allowed to be lazy. Lazy is a bad word. Cats are really good at it, but we're not allowed to be good at it. And here's another one. We insist on health. We actually obsess about health. We come to the point of cutting out someone's breasts and their ovaries to prevent a possible cancer and to reject the experience of disease. Again, we're completely in health. We reject its opposite. And the more we reject it, the more the health eludes us. Because disease and health are actually polar opposites. And together they form unity. So nothing in life is bad. It is only our attitude. So I'll give you an example. Think of possessions, okay? There's some people that think possessions, are your highest achievement. You get a Tesla, oh my gosh, you must have an amazing life. You really got it. Success, bravo. And other people think possessions are a burden. It's more responsibility, more things I have to take care of, and then I have to insure them, and then I never know where they're at, and then they break down, more things to maintain. Possessions are the same, but it is only the attitude that decides if something is good or bad. Okay? So I'm going to give you an example. If we look at stress, okay, most of us, especially lately, we're being told that stress is bad, right? How many of you have heard that? Stress is really bad for you. Whatever you do, don't get in a high-level stress. That is not going to be good for your health. That's going to give you all sorts of health problems, right? Okay, I'm going to give you a different attitude. If I can share my screen.
I have a confession to make. But first, I want you to make a little confession to me. In the past year, I want you to just raise your hand if you've experienced relatively little stress. Anyone? Mm-hmm. How about a moderate amount of stress? Who's experienced a lot of stress? Yeah, me too. But that is not my confession. My confession is this. I'm a health psychologist, and my mission is to help people be happier and healthier. But I fear that something I've been teaching for the last 10 years is doing more harm than good, and it has to do with stress. For years, I've been telling people stress makes you sick. It increases the risk of everything from the common cold to cardiovascular disease. Basically, I've turned stress into the enemy. But I've changed my mind about stress. And today, I want to change yours. Let me start with the study that made me rethink my whole approach to stress. This study tracked 30,000 adults in the United States for 8 years. And they started by asking people, how much stress have you experienced in the last year? They also asked, do you believe that stress is harmful for your health? And then they used public death records to find out who died. Okay, some bad news first. People who experienced a lot of stress in the previous year had a 43% increased risk of dying. But that was only true for the people who also believed that stress is harmful for your health. People who experienced a lot of stress but did not view stress as harmful were no more likely to die. In fact, they had the lowest risk of dying of anyone in the study, including people who had relatively little stress. Now, the researchers estimated that over the 8 years they were tracking deaths, 182,000 Americans died prematurely, not from stress, but from the belief that stress is bad for you. That is over 20,000 deaths a year. Now, if that estimate is correct, that would make believing stress is bad for you the 15th largest cause of death in the United States last year, killing more people than skin cancer, HIV, AIDS, and homicide. You can see why this study freaked me out. Here I've been spending so much energy telling people stress is bad for your health. So this study got me wondering, can changing how you think about stress make you healthier? And here the science says yes. When you change your mind about stress, you can change your body's response to stress. Now, to explain how this works, I want you all to pretend that you are participants in a study designed to stress you out. It's called the social stress test. You come into the laboratory and you're told you have to give a 5-minute impromptu speech on your personal weaknesses to a panel of expert evaluators sitting right in front of you. And to make sure you feel the pressure, there are bright lights and a camera in your face, kind of like this. And the evaluators have been trained to give you discouraging nonverbal feedback, like this. Now that you're sufficiently demoralized, time for part 2, a math test. And unbeknownst to you, the experimenter has been trained to harass you during it. Now, we're gonna all do this together. It's gonna be fun for me. Okay. I want you all to count backwards from 996 in increments of 7. You're gonna do this out loud as fast as you can, starting with 996. Go. Go faster. Faster, please. You're going too slow. Stop, 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 stop. That guy made a mistake. We're gonna have to start all over again. You're not very good at this, are you? Okay, so you get the idea. Now, if you were actually in this study, you'd probably be a little stressed out. Your heart might be pounding, you might be breathing faster, maybe breaking out into a sweat. And normally we interpret these physical changes as anxiety or signs that we aren't coping very well with the pressure. But what if you viewed them instead as signs that your body was energized, was preparing you to meet this challenge? Now, that is exactly what participants were told in a study conducted at Harvard University. Before they went through the social stress test, they were taught to rethink their stress response as helpful. That pounding heart is preparing you for action. If you're breathing faster, it's no problem. It's getting more oxygen to your brain. And participants who learned to view the stress response as helpful for their performance, well, they were less stressed out, less anxious, more confident. But the most fascinating finding to me was how their physical stress response changed. Now, in a typical stress response, your heart rate goes up and your blood vessels constrict like this. And this is one of the reasons that chronic stress is sometimes associated with cardiovascular disease. It's not really healthy to be in this state all the time. But in the study, when participants viewed their stress response as helpful, their blood vessels stayed relaxed like this. Their heart was still pounding, but this is a much healthier cardiovascular profile. It actually looks a lot like what happens in moments of joy and courage. Over a lifetime of stressful experiences, this one biological change could be the difference between a stress-induced heart attack at age 50 and living well into your 90s. And this is really what the new science of stress reveals, that how you think about stress matters. So my goal as a health psychologist has changed. I no longer want to get rid of your stress. I want to make you better at stress. And we just did a little intervention. If you raised your hand and said you'd had a lot of stress in the last year, we could have saved your life. Because hopefully the next time your heart is pounding from stress, you're going to remember this talk and you're going to think to yourself, this is my body helping me rise to this challenge.
Very different, huh? we're not judging it anymore. We're saying all we've done is change the attitude. And later on in this, it's a TED Talk, she goes on to say that stress actually makes you more social. She releases hormones that make you more social. And so she even adds on more to it, right? It just depends on the attitude you have, in the same way as possessions or stress. So what we're going to do in this second session is, we're not going to get rid of anything. We're going to modify the attitudes around things. We're going to be aware where there is judgment and negative attitudes, and we're going to modify those. Also, we're going to look for when someone's very polarized and the other pole doesn't exist anywhere in their lives, okay? So, also adding to the quotes, Carl Jung. I mean, I've fallen in love with Carl Jung in the last month since I've been preparing this class, because every time you read a quote of his, you know, this that I've been reading lately, he got this. He knew this already. And, you know, he says, I would rather be whole than good. Because good is over here. Whole is to hold both of them, right? So our strategy is to remove those negative judgments, those rejections. Both, you're going to be noticing the rejections they have to themselves and the rejections they have towards their disease. As with the definition of stress, you're moving them towards a new attitude of disease. From disease being something that happened to them, came out of nowhere, I'm just a victim, you're going to start changing it to disease is actually their most intimate friend. Will say things to them that not even their best friends are able to say to them, because their disease, their body loves them. You're going to change their attitude so that they realize the disease is their teacher. The disease will evolve them consciously, will take them to areas that they didn't realize. Their disease will actually lead them to wholeness. And their disease, remember the polarities, if they fully embody and fully accept and fully go into their disease will actually lead them to health, a greater health than they've ever experienced. So my main teacher, Dalke, also talked about it. He said, we believe that these contrasting pairs exclude one another, and herein lies the mistake. For reality consists of unity. These contrasting forms of unity and are dependent on one another. As well, I wanted to, I'm just going to read this. This actually comes from quantum physics. I was trying to find something that explained it a little easier, but I'll just read it. It's very science. I'll put it on the outline, so if anybody wants to chew on it for a while. This actually came about when quantum physics was studying the particles, and the frickin' particles were either a particle or a wave, when they were, they're trying to figure out if light was a particle or light was a wave. And it depended, and it was driving them crazy until they realized, oh, wait a minute. No, actually, the wave is the unity. The light is the unity that can either be a particle or a wave. And that to actually understand light, you must understand both sides of it. And what they say is the particle wave duality of matter is to realize that the wave center, so think of that, that sphere that I was showing you, the yin-yang, the wave center of the spherical standing wave caused the observed particle effect of the matter. Likewise, the discrete particle properties of light are caused by the standing wave interactions, which only occur at discrete frequencies and thus energy states. In a nutshell, as I said before, through one, they discovered the other one, and one creates the other. There's another one, also David Bohm. He wrote a book called Wholeness and the Implicate Order. He's also quantum physics, and he says the notion that all fragments is separately existent is evidently an illusion. And this illusion cannot do other than lead to endless conflict and confusion. Indeed, the attempt to live according to the notion that the fragments are really separate is in essence what has led to the growing series of extremely urgent crises that is confronting us today. And then he talks about that this, this way of life, this is good, this is bad, war, peace, this way of life has brought pollution, destruction of the balance of nature, overpopulation, worldwide economic and political disorder, and the creation of an overall environment that is neither physically or mentally healthy. So even quantum physics is realizing that this fragmentation and separation is not healthy, and it's leading to our crisis. So we need to help our clients, and we need to learn ourselves to let go of I'm right and you're wrong, or it should be like this. This is how it's done kind of thing, because it's bringing you to a pole, and you need to be aware when your client is doing that. Yes, Loreto?
Sí. So you're talking about embracing the shadow?
Yes, that would be another, we will do a whole session only on shadow. This is
the same.
Yeah, this is even simpler. This is embracing the opposites.
No, it's not simpler.
It could be. Some things are very, very shadow, like never, I'm never. But some things are just like, oh, I'm not allowed to be bad. Oh, I never lie. Oh, I'm not lazy. It's not our shadow. We just reject it. And that can actually create that imbalance. The shadow is then those things that reject, and we don't have any awareness we've even rejected it. No, it's even deeper. And that we'll go into in a couple of sessions. But here, just looking at those polar opposites. And you guys might have, I'll just keep going in case. When we reject something, and it could be shadow, just the opposite. Imagine as if the breathing exercise, trying to reject something. What happened to what was happening? I mean, it's like it didn't stay calm, did it? It's like the issue got bigger and bigger and bigger. The more we insisted and rejected, the bigger the issue became. The only way to release that is to stop pushing, to stop insisting, stop saying, no, I am doing this, yes or yes. Because it's almost like we're pushing a wall, saying that's not allowed, this, and we're pushing this wall going, get out of my life, I don't want you, like disease, I don't want you. But we sense all that pressure, and the first thing we need to do is let go of the wall. Let it be there. Accept its existence. As NLP says, everything has a positive intention. Let it be there. And then discover what is that positive intention. But right now, what we're going to do is observe those areas that is rejected, right? Because everything has the right to exist. Every manifestation has a purpose. I mean, look at, for example, we can say, oh, war is bad, But think of, for example, when a little chicken, a little baby chicken is in there, that little egg, how do you think it gets out? Do you think it's peacefully, its way of getting out of that egg? Or does it declare war against the eggshell, with its beak? Or a seedling, to get out of the ground. It's not a peaceful thing, it's like a struggle, and and you see it in those cameras that are like accelerated after a month of the seed trying to grow out. It's a war, and it's necessary. Selfishness as well. Why would selfishness be a good thing?
When you have...
Go.
Okay, when you have the archetype as the caretaker, So accepting being selfish, it's very good.
Mm-hmm. And Craig?
So on that TED Talk, the way in which a person thinks about stress seemed to be whether it threw it into constricted blood vessels or they remained open. And so it makes me, when I hear a statement like that, well, what about the way in which I think about money? What about the way in which I think about relationships? And then it turns, you can put anything in the blank. The way in which I think about anything, including what you just said, could be the determining factor. And yesterday I had a client, and it seems to me that we can get hints by the first thing that they say that they have a trouble with. Then it goes back to, well, how are they thinking about that? And so on the phone, she said, oh, I'm meeting this difficult person, and it's getting closer, and I have to pick them up tomorrow at the airport, and I'm almost having a panic attack. I heard that, and then what I heard was the unspoken opposite. It's like, she's giving her power away. Has she ever considered the fact that this is a message for her to reclaim her power? So I addressed that, and then she started looking at, oh my gosh, I not only give my power away here, I've been giving it away here, here, here in the last 5 and 10 years. And so it began a process then of reclaiming the part that she wasn't breathing. She was inhaling, but she wasn't exhaling. And then the symptoms started to arise of the opposite. It looks to me like symptoms is a call for embracing the opposite so we can get back in balance.
And when we did the exercise of the breathing, your body was actually compensating what you didn't want to do.
Right. The panic attack was pointing her in the direction for her to take. It's almost like embrace the nasty person's attitude and then see what you discover inside, which is kind of the opposite. That why would I ever want to get close to embracing that?
Mm-hmm. Or like the stress, get excited. Woo, I wonder what's going to happen today. I wonder if he's going to say something.
Yeah. Well, it's a difference between that, in bungee jumping or making $1 million overnight. You get all
this person's unstable. I wonder if something's going to pop.
Yes.
Very different attitude. Yeah. Then, for example, I want to give you an example, asthma. And I'll probably allude to it a little later on. If you research asthma and find out what it is or have ever experienced it, with asthma, you actually can't take in any more breath. You feel like you can't breathe in, right? So what has the body done? It won't let you take in anymore. So what must that mean? Lori?
It's resisting letting go, because if it won't let go of, if it won't breath, there's no room for the in-breath.
Exactly. It happens a lot with kids. They take in a lot, they take in a lot, they take in a lot, and they don't leave. They don't let go, and they don't give back. It's like, I want love, I want this, I want that. Very typical of kids, but they don't release. So actually, the body is stopping them from taking in anymore. Interesting enough. All right, so you're starting to get a inkling where we're going. So now I'm going to confuse you guys even more. I heard a so. Who's mute? Okay, here we go. One more little component. Listen to this quote. Every goal, here's our two sparks, right? The yin and the yang. Every goal can only be achieved via its opposite pole. Okay. How do you throw a stone, for example? If I want to throw a stone and throw it really far, am I going to go in the direction of the stone to throw it? Or am I going to go as far away as I can and then throw it? What's going to make it go further? if I go in the opposite direction and then carry it forward. Every goal can only be achieved via its opposite pole. For example, roses. Gardeners know this. In order to create the most perfumed roses, what do you need to give to the roses? Perfume? Do you need to like perfume them, the soil? No, you need to put the most stinky manure, mix it up in the soil, because as you take and give them that stinky stuff, the more perfumed those roses are going to become. Another book, there's a great book, you know, the Tibetan Book of the Living and the Dying, and they say, he who has not learned to die cannot live. Every goal can only be achieved via the opposite pole. So if you really want something badly, even though it's very counterintuitive, the best thing is first to go fully into the opposite. And some of you, you know, I've experienced this quite often. Several moments of my life when I really want a relationship, you can forget it. When I'm finally like, you know what, I'm fine. I figured this out. I don't need a relationship. I've got dancing. I've got friends. I've got everything. I really don't. Relationship comes in. And I'm like, seriously? Now? Seriously? I have it always. And I always say, you know, life is sarcastic. Dalke calls it law of polarity. Same thing, you know. I had the same with the job. I wanted to get out of a job, and it was a very good paying job. And I decided that I didn't care. I was probably the best paying architect at that moment. And for that, I was actually a student at that point. But I said, I didn't care. I needed to get out. I was going to find a place, find a job that I enjoyed. And I would accept any price. And so I moved, I got into a shared apartment, I sold things, I simplified, I cut my expenses by half. I found a job, I had the interview for the job. It was amazing. It was a great company, great people working there. And, you know, the interview went well, and I thought, cool. And at the end of the interview, they're like, don't you want to know what you're going to make? It wasn't even on my radar. And I was like, oh yeah, what am I going to make? I was going to be making, and I started making almost twice as much as I was making in the previous place. Because I totally let it go. I totally let it go and went fully into the other side, went fully into, I don't need it at all. Totally, I can go completely with the $1,000 a month kind of thing. And I got a job unintentionally paying even more. And probably all of you, if you start thinking about it, you'll notice this has happened. You know, this has happened in your life. I think I have Loreto?
Sí. I'm confused. No, I mean, I get what you're saying. And immediately I thought, well, what about when people said, be careful with what you ask for, because you might get it. So what about you got, I don't care about how much money I'm going to make, all that stuff. And the moment that they tell you, okay, you are going to make this little much we can offer you. I mean, after all, you ask for it. So what would you say with that?
It's not law of polarity. There's more laws in the universe.
Got it. Good answer. More laws. Okay. Thank you.
Or if we think about it, we might find how, right? I think what the best thing is like, I will do it even if I don't make much money. Once it's like the letting go of it.
The letting go. It's the letting go.
The letting go of this rightness, this I has to be this. Letting it go will actually bring it even higher.
Yeah. The letting go aspect. Gotcha.
So,
thank you.
Question. What do you think the best way to health? Got Sharon, since you haven't said anything. Right there.
Accepting all of who you are, your wholeness, as you said.
Well,
And that doesn't mean you have to cleave to one part and go around being the bad person all the time, but accepting that you're capable of everything.
mhm.
And the disease is part of that.
I would even go further to say that the best way to health,
Mhm.
take the pendulum all the way to the other side,
Right.
through disease.
To embrace it as and accept it, right?
To go fully into it. I'll tell you guys
Yeah.
a story. And Lori might remember this from Dawkins training. Dr. Daka was telling us about a client he had. He had been diagnosed by his doctor as having a genetic disease that would eventually lead him to full blindness. He wouldn't be able to see anything. So this doctor spoke to Dr. Dalke, because Dr. Dalke also does psychotherapy, and said, I want you to speak to my client so he can get, adjusted to the fact that he will lose all his vision. So Dr. Dalke worked with this client. He said, what I want you to do is every day, I want you to spend 20 minutes completely blind. Just practice. I want you to spend 20 minutes allowing yourself to be fully in what that disease is going to take you to now, rather than wait until it comes, which a lot of us will be like, oh, that's like, it's bringing it forward even more. It's going to get worse. But he invited him, go fully into, what if I was completely blind? What would I do differently? What would I want to change about my life? What do I want to simplify? What becomes my priority? And he said, start making those small changes, just prepare for it. So this guy started preparing. And for starters, he was married. He was a businessman and made a lot of money. And he was married, and he realized that his wife was probably more in love with his money than with him. And once he became blind, he would not be able to do the same kind of work. And so eventually his wife would leave him. And he decided that he better prepare. And so he actually divorced. Also, he decided that living in a big city when you're blind is quite stressful. It's probably better to live somewhere in a small town, somewhere easier to get to. There's only 2 stores, somewhere walking distance to everything. So he actually moved during this process of the 20 minutes a day, during this exercise period. He built his own house in this town. He made it super easy, super simple, so that when he became blind, he would be able to move around his house comfortably. He built it himself, so he knew every nook of the place. And then in this town, he met a woman. And he told this woman, I will eventually go blind, so I want you to know that, you need to love me for me, because I will go blind, and I might not be able to support you as well as I can right now. And she said, okay, that's okay. I'm fine with that. Several years later, he still hadn't fully developed the blindness. He had lost a little bit of vision, but he never became blind. And his doctors were baffled, because he had the gene. That's what the progression did. That's what other patients, eventually had. He never became blind. So if you think about it, he so embraced, took 20 minutes a day to say, what is this creating for me? What is this allowing me to do more of, prioritize, etc.? He actually never fully developed the disease. So, it's a very counterintuitive way of healing. So in the second session I do with my clients, I begin to transform those attitudes and beliefs to actually any of the attitudes and beliefs that are actually keeping health further away from them, right? Noticing where they're almost too obsessed, because that's taking them even further away, right? And those negative attitudes like the stress thing. So two ways that we're going to find out where they're imbalanced. One, we need to start learning about the disease, because as we learn what the disease is doing, so for example, the in-breath, the out-breath, what is the disease doing? Because if you can figure out more or less what the action is, think of it literally and metaphorically. What is that action that disease is doing? You can start seeing where the person needs to be balanced. So that's the first place you're going to look. And the second place you're going to look is their language. What are they saying? What is their opinion and attitude? So before the second session, I've already had a first session with them. I've given them that deep relaxation, and they've told me what their diseases are, right? What the symptoms are. So by the second session, I will have researched the disease. You can go into WebMD, for example, go into any university and find out what is the action of that disease. Not the symptoms, but it's like, you know, I'll give you another example. Let me see, I think I wrote one here. Yeah, it's like cancer, for example. What is the action involved in cancer? If you think about it, cancer are actually your own cells. It's not something weird. It's actually healthy cells of the body that have turned into narcissists. Healthy cells of the body that have decided it's going to be all about me right now. I'm going to eat everything around me. I'm not going to pay attention to any rules. I don't care what anybody else wants. It's just about me, and I'm going to dedicate all the energy possible so that I can grow. And they don't care what anybody else thinks or what anybody other cell wants, right? And interesting enough, the immune system is actually standing back and letting this happen. Okay, so what would a cancer be telling you that that person needs? Verbatim. Remember, disease is actually doing the balancing. Sharon.
You know, I just have to tell you, because it's a good segue here, is to be selfish, right? And I just saw my friend, I won't say his name, but my friend that you originally treated yesterday. And this is what he embraced wholly that you're saying right now. And I will tell you, I've known him for 20 years, and his face and all of his continence was completely different. And that theme has run through his whole life. His father used to say, "Don't be the world tit," you know. But I saw it in the flesh, and it's amazing what happened with him and you.
Anyone else? Okay, yeah, it's all about growing. It's all about, you're giving so much, what about you? It's all about, you need to balance. You need to verbalize, well, what do you need? Well, what do you want? Well, which movie do you want to see? Okay. So you'll go in and look on internet and just kind of find out, what is that disease about, you know? MS is it's affecting the nervous system. It's actually not allowing the pulses, the energy pulses for your hands or your feet, not allowing them to move properly. It's stopping, the body is stopping the person from moving forward quickly. Okay, you're starting to get inklings. One of my clients has lupus, and it affects his kidneys. His kidneys are overproducing protein. It leaks protein. What is protein? Right? But what is kidneys? Kidneys, if you look an anatomy book or look online, it filters, and it's all about relationships. It's a relationship. So it's like, getting some inklings here. There's something about standing his ground in relationships, and it's about relationships. So you're starting to get an inkling. What are those balances? First, the disease, and the second will be interviewing them. And that's what we're going to be doing in a lot more detail in a few minutes. Yeah, so you can check on the webpage at WebMD. You can review, for example, the Delicate app for people who have iPhone. Disease is Simple, Carolyn Mize. The other book I recommended, The Body Speaks Your Mind. Any of those kind of books, take it lightly, you know, because people, it's very general. You don't want to say, oh, it's about anger. You know, for example, with lupus, there is about anger and about relationships. And I will tell you, I've had one client in which he's actually very angry with his parents, you know, and is not forgiving. And yet another client with lupus, you don't see the anger. It's actually a destructive relationship with you know, her mother, a destructive relationship with someone who's very narcissistic. The mother has anger issues, and she's taken and swallowed it and swallowed it and swallowed it and swallowed it. So you're gonna take those inklings of those books or the things that you research and go, I wonder if it's any of this. But you're taking it lightly, because in the next session, the session 3, you will speak directly to the horse's mouth and get the information. But in this session, interesting enough, the strategy of this session is for you to start figuring out what are those balances, and you're going to do a hypnosis session in which you're going to throw at them every single negative attitude or unacceptance. You're actually literally going to flip it, and I'll show you guys how you do that. And you're going to feed it back to them in hypnosis, where someone's so much more receptive. And in this second session, just by doing that, you as the as the hypnotherapist and NLP practitioner, you're going to learn a lot about them, and it's going to be very good information for you to use in the rest of the sessions. So for you, it's kind of like a deep intake. But in this session, by doing this exercise of flipping every single one of their imbalances, you're actually going to create a shift in their symptoms. And because you're actually going to create a shift in their symptoms, you're going to get them committed to do the rest of the protocol. Because they come in the first session, they're like, well, maybe this will work, but who knows, probably not with me. I'm probably not good at hypnosis, or, you know, probably not this disease. But after that first session, they're learning to spend those little 20 minutes, 15 minutes doing that relaxation that we did last time. So they're getting better sleep. They're having a moment of the day in which they relax, and they're starting to notice, wow, I'm feeling a little more peaceful. You know, and they're getting sleep, which is the biggest piece to healing, right? But in the second session, by doing this strategy that I'm going to show you, you're going to have a major effect on their symptoms. And when I did the MS study, they all noticed it after the session. They were like, oh my gosh, you know, this really works. And they were committed. And if they're like, fine, if it's 9 months, we'll do my 9 months. You know, you just did something. I'm not sure what you did, but I want more. Okay. So how do we do this? All right. So let's get into a little details here. And again, no pressure. You're not the expert in the disease, okay? The subconscious is the expert. It's actually even better you don't assume too much. You just, you know, might have some inklings, but don't assume. Even if you have no idea. I've had clients come and I'm like, what is that? You know, and I didn't have time to look, and I don't know. And I'm just asking, I'm like, subconscious will tell me, you know, I'll figure it out during the session. You know, it's fine. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen. I gave you guys a questionnaire. I have 2 questionnaires that I've used. I do this by hand during the session. I have that little questionnaire and I just fill it all out. So I've actually typed it out so you guys can see a couple of examples. Okay. I think it's this one. Does the top say sample client 1? Someone nod your head. Yes, okay, because I'm not sure what I'm sharing. Okay, good. So client sample 1. This client had chronic fatigue, since she got mono 5 years earlier in university, okay? And she has never fully recuperated from the mono. So what I do is I start asking her a lot of questions to start getting attitudes, to start getting inklings of how the disease is manifesting for them. So watch this. So I'm asking them, what are the physical symptoms? What does it make you feel, right? And what part of the body is involved? What are you doing currently? What makes it better? What makes it worse? This is my first little group of questions. She answers, tiredness. It's broad and it varies, but it's always there. There's heaviness and my head is always fuzzy. My eyes are tense. They want to shut and sleep. It affects my whole body. What makes it better? Resting, sleeping, napping, though it's hard to do in the day because she's so wired. The body seems to be on all the time. I worry I won't be able to start up again if I actually stopped. What makes it worse if she's pushing, if she's staying up late, if she's not doing self-care, meditating, or if she's stressing out. All right, now this is how I flipped it. And here I create the hypnotic script that I will then record for her. I actually do it in the session. We write all this out and then I have her lay down. I do the gentle deepening relaxation for a few minutes and then I start telling her this. So she talked about heaviness, tiredness, eyes are tense and want to shut. I say every day, more and more, you feel the energy inside you grow. Totally different than fatigue. Like a seed opening up, breaking through and becoming lighter and lighter, because all she has is heaviness, right? As it reaches up to the sky. Your eyes see clearly. Her eyes just want to shut. Her eyes see clearly, opening in awe of all that you've done, who you have chosen to be. Life has become very satisfying, and thus you can just relax and enjoy the ride. Another thing, if you look, for example, on the Dalke app on mono, you get a few hints. It says they need to learn to control the flow of life energy. They're struggling to achieve independence. Okay, they're waging an inner struggle, coming to terms with the central subject of life, such as relationships, and courageously tackling individuation. All right, so it's a lot about I'm keeping my eye on, is there any relationship that has some unresolved issues, and I'm keeping my eye on, is she struggling for independence? So I have no idea, just keeping it on the radar. Then she says, I feel I'm not enough. So then I start asking, so this is, what is your physical manifestation? Then I'm gonna ask, what is your thinking patterns and what is your emotional patterns? So in thinking patterns, I say, well, what do you think, when you think about your mono, when you think about the future, when you think about your body? No, I'm trying to see what is her attitudes. And she says, I think I'm not enough, that I can't do this, that I should be able to, and I can't, so therefore I'm incapable. I can't get through the day, the year, the month, the next year. She's frustrated. She feels limited and she compares herself. Guilty, I don't contribute to the cleaning. Turns out she had to return home to her parents' house, right? But she's so tired she can't contribute. I worry about the future. She still has 300 hours of internship and she has to live. She wants to be totally independent financially, and she's guilty and feels shame for living with her parents. It doesn't work the way I want it to. I don't like it. So I take this and I flip it. And she loved this word. This is the word that kept with her. I wrote I here, but when I'm dictating it to her, I say you. Interesting enough, when I'm receiving this from her, I do, as they say in NLP, I do first position at that moment and say, what would be the opposite for me, so I can write it down. So when I write it, I actually write I. But then when I do the recording for her, I say, you are exactly right. She loves that phrase. that she's perfect. She loves this phrase. She says she listens to this recording all the time so she can hear that one. You are exactly right. You can do anything when you decide that is what you desire to do. You are exactly on your path and no one else's. Every day, more and more, you find your unique way of being an independent, fulfilled, and capable person. You are strong. Everything is working out exactly right. Now I can see that. I'm flipping everything. Then emotionally, she says, I'm sad, I'm depressed, I'm angry, I'm frustrating, I'm doubting. Again, I feel guilt and shame, lack of joy and aliveness. I feel dead. I feel, self-guilt. And here I take the issue and I say that issue actually means that opposite side. So I say, when you feel tired, it empowers you to put yourself first, to do that which you desire, to speak up, right? She's not speaking. She feels shame, completely closed out. When you feel heavy, whoop, opposite, you let go. You let go of guilt, expectations, others' opinions, shoulds. You love letting go. When you feel fuzzy, boop, it makes you laugh. You remember to not take life seriously. You let go of the focus. Opposite, fuzzy focus. And enjoy the moment, right? And then she explains a little bit in the questionnaire. You get the history. So you start getting an inkling of what was happening and what did she make of the disease when it came in, right? Your client will have a very strong opinion about when the disease came in. It's usually an interruption, everything was great, then you'll find out later on that it wasn't so great, but they really think everything is great and all of a sudden this thing came on, right? In her case, she had just moved to university as a freshman, she was missing her family, and her mom was very sad that she was gone. Looking at the app of Dalkey, it's about a strong relationship that needs to be resolved and about independence. She's struggling with the guilt of making mom sad, right? And at the same time, wanting her independence. How can she balance both? So I'm saying you take care of yourself. You've organized your life to do your work, your studies, because she feels like, she can't organize anything. You're having great new experiences and you're seeing places you want to explore. You know yourself now. You respect yourself now. You're growing into a unique, independent, fulfilled, capable, and strong you. I then later on go on to say, because I'm noticing as I'm doing these, questions, the conflict is with mom. Mom has built her whole life around her. So later on point 6, I say, your mom is happier and happier the more independent you become. And the more independent you become, the more independent she becomes. I'm flipping it. If I'm independent, mom's sad. No, if you're independent, mom's happy. You help each other by being yourselves, achieving your dreams, and becoming unique, fulfilled, independent, capable, and strong human beings, right? Strong beings. She was talking about, metaphorically, she felt everything is entangled. All the guilt and everything's holding her down. So from entangled, notice those cords that were tying you down and you cut them off. Cut them and tie your cords to your heart and to your, and to your gut, from your heart to your gut, to your higher self. She believed in higher self is perfect. She holds your dreams, desires, and future. So tie those old cords of the past that were tying her down up opposite to her higher self, right? So yeah, and I'll give you another example. Let me see how I share the second one. Just throwing you guys a few examples, hopefully it makes sense. The more verbatim you do this, it's hard sometimes in a session to pull out, the perfect opposite. But the more you do it verbatim, the better. because it really does something inside of them. It's amazing. So for example, this sample client number 2 has multiple sclerosis. Her physical symptoms is she has a constant numbness in the right arm and her fingers. It's constant. Legs, not so much. There's a numbness, but heat and sun, just, she hates it. Makes everything much more intense. And if she does any kind of cardio, it feels like pebbles in her shoes, right? She also has headaches. And then she has what's called MS sleeps. She gets so tired it hurts, right? And she can sleep for a day and a half. And she feels empty and fatigued to the core, when she gets these MS sleeps. So the opposite, I'm working with the arm. In this case, I put your right arm is the most energized, enthusiastic part of you. She wants to write and express and marvel. Anytime you're outside, you feel the sun, you look up and breathe deeply at nature. You breathe her all the way down to your toes. Remember, what is truly important is your happiness, fulfillment, as who she is. You feel full of life instead of you feel empty. All of it, right? You like to rest. She hated that she had MS sleeps, and she hates having to be lazy for a full day because of the MS sleeps. So I say you like to rest. You like replenishment so that you can keep feeling fulfilled and you can take yourself to your dreams and continuing to enjoy your inner life and all it has to offer. So she was very negative about having to sleep all day and be in the dream space. All of a sudden, she's enjoying that inner life. That's what you're feeding her, is those opposites, right? And then again, your thinking patterns. In the thinking patterns, she has very strong judgments against the MS. She can't, she thinks, poor me, I just want it to go away. I want to fix it. I'm not supposed to have this. I used to be fun. I used to be the life of the party. Now I feel old, and I feel it might be forever. So again, you're changing their attitude. So I'm saying MS is not you. That's the first thing. MS is your teacher. And when the student is ready, the teacher, the muse, since she's all about art and writing, the muse, the guardian angel that will show up. All the other side of life. I did this really quickly because I do this all by hand. You guys not be able to see my handwriting, so I tried to type it up. To show you all the other sides of life. So the teacher's showing up to show you all the other sides of life. I'm alluding to that polarity. It's trying to show you the other sides. And at the beginning of the session, I do explain about the law of polarity. I say, I'm going to be listening attentively, and I'm going to see where you've got a lot more positive ions than negative ions, or a lot more negative than positive, so that we can balance those things out. And let's see how the body responds. It's all, leave it open. One of the things she was afraid of is because of having MS, she goes, my greatest fear is it will affect my ability to have babies. It'll get worse and I'll be too tired to have babies. So I say that the MS is the teacher. You'll be pleasantly surprised to learn about and integrate into your life the teachings so that you can be a nourishing, fully embodied, fully present, and fulfilled mother. All of a sudden, the MS is actually going to make her a better mother. When she's believing the MS is going to keep her from having babies, right? It's really different. And during the session that you're listening, you're writing, listening to them and then writing these opposites, they're like, yeah, right. But then when you put them into the trance, they get it. They come out of trance going, oh my God, that is possible, Emotions, she fears it. She wants it to go away. And again, when it's really hot, I get anxious, that I'll start tingling. Opposite, heat, instead of anxious, that's going to start tingling. Heat reminds you of warm winter days inside near the chimney. Satisfied, happy, just enjoying the burning embers, like in your childhood house. Every time you feel heat, you remember to relax and enjoy the moment like children are so good at. She talked a lot. She's a doer, right? You drop the do's, the should haves, and drop back into that inner child wonder. Life is fascinating, right? So those are the little bits. You're just listening and flipping, listening and flipping. I'll be posting on the Canvas. I'm still tweaking it. We had some video problems. An example of a live demo of someone with multiple sclerosis that we're going through this interview session. I knew that we were doing it, we were recording it for this training, so I'm giving him a lot more lessons than I would usually give a client, so I'm talking a lot more than I usually talk, but you'll really get a sense of how we flip it all. And then you'll really notice him when he gets out of the session, because at the end, once I flip everything around, then I just let him relax and I start feeding it back to him and I record it live there in the session. And so you'll see it in the video at the end. He's completely relaxed, happy, and like, oh, you know, all of a sudden what I explained to him, let me stop the share. What I explained to him is like, we get in these grooves of mental patterns, of how we think. And it's such a groove, we don't even notice we're in a groove. And I tell him that what we're going to do in this second session is we're going to open that up a bit. We're just going to open up just to give life a few more possibilities that he might not have contemplated. Just make it easier for us to then, you know, continue our work. So what I'm going to propose is that you guys are going to break into, I'll be getting all the questions in a moment, and then you guys will break in, we have time for you to break into groups. And what I want to propose you guys do, you can have a disease, it can be about relationships, it can be about money. Just have one, there'll be 2 people per group, one person asking, what are the symptoms, you know, how is it manifesting? What are your thoughts about it? And what are your emotions? Just those first ones, just those top 3, because you're going to get all the attitudes there. And then flip them, literally write it down. And then what would be the opposite? Okay. And then you'll just have time for the other person just to kind of close your eyes, just kind of count them down, you know, just a very short little relaxation. Maybe it's just like 10, deeper, deeper down, 9, breathing and letting go, 8, anything, just a little short thing, and feed it back to them, and then call them back up. And then if we have time, we'll do this the second. But just those, just the symptom, what are their thought patterns? Follow that little questionnaire if you have it. Hopefully one of the 2 will have it. And what is your emotions? And before I break you guys into little groups, let's see, Carlos. Yes, Carlos. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you.
Yes, do you have a question?
I had a question.
Did it get answered?
Yeah. What's about the asthma? Because I suffer from asthma like 9 years, and you were saying that because I couldn't take any oxygen, like it was really hard to breathe. So I tried to understand what I was rejecting.
It was almost, and again, that one you can even, in the next session, you would talk directly to the asthma. But when you're preparing this session, if you were preparing about asthma is a wanting to receive from the outside. I feel I don't have enough love. I don't feel fulfilled. I want all this from the outside, and the body is saying, no, blocking it. Fill from in here. Mm-hmm. Fill from in here, and from here, bring it out to the world. Fulfill out there. But again, these are like little, you're kind of going, I wonder if that is anything to do with it.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Yeah. And Jamie.
Oh, I think I wanted to make sure the one that you sent us was blank to work with tonight, right? But those ones that you are showing us is not, we weren't supposed to already have those.
No.
But you put those on Canvas?
Yeah, I'll correct the spelling. I noticed I did it really fast. But I was looking, I was like, oh, they can't read my handwriting. No, let me write this out.
Great. Okay, thanks.
All right. Paul.
So we're just doing the disease, the thinking patterns, the emotional patterns. Is that correct?
And again, if you don't have a disease you can work on, you can do relationships, money, as Greg said. Yeah, any disease or relationship, money, any big issue in your life. All right. So yeah, just stick to the first three. Let's do, have one person interview the other person 15 minutes. Does that sound good?
You do it both ways or one way?
Both ways. So that's why you have until 53 after.
Oh, okay.
53.
So we need to go back in then.
Okay.
Yes, I don't see how I can break you guys back out. Let me check. So how was that? Any questions or any?
Go ahead, Jamie, because
Yeah, no, it was good. I think I really want to study your papers that you were presenting, because just the way that you flipped things sometimes weren't totally intuitive to me when you were reading them over. I was like, oh,
it's hard. Yeah, it's hard to then write it down because you're getting so much in the session.
yeah.
What I will be also sharing with you guys is a video, because there you'll see what the person is saying and not just what I was able to write down. To help.
Like when they got part of us like strictly role playing, like we kind of did it together a little bit, because I wanted to think through it and talk through it and stuff, because I didn't feel totally clear with what you had done in your examples and stuff. But yeah, I think we did it right, Sharon.
yeah, definitely. Well, we were trying to remind ourselves to just keep it simple, because we don't know the whole thing yet. So we wanted just the experience of without trying to be too perfect.
Good. Let me see if I can get another one. Let me find another example.
Okay.
Is everybody there? It looks like on my screen we've only got 4 of us.
Yeah, no, there's still some people in their
Oh, okay.
doing their.
Well, I would love to flip this around and take the time to do it. I'd like to. I guess we're not going to have time.
Not in the class, but you can definitely go with your partner, get along with her, and do the opposite, because it's just so amazing. I mean, let me find, there was one woman, while we were doing it, she was telling me, she's like, there is no way I'm going to accept what you're saying. And then in the middle, through the session, when she came out, she goes, oh my gosh, I got it. She got how it is possible. It was like the subconscious just kind of showed her how that possibility could exist, right?
Yeah.
It was such a shock for her, because she laughed so much during the session because I would share with her, oh, well, this means, so let me give you some examples of hers.
I found it a little bit of a stretch to jump from a disease to, we did it about a job situation. And what I found is in the disease, of course, it would be aimed at the disease, pointing out, what's happening, and you just flip that. This was the emotions and the thoughts, and we just flip those, which I guess are basically the same thing. It's a little stretch.
From disease to emotions?
From an item, an issue, to a disease. To me, they feel a little different. But
for example, an issue would be, I keep getting people on the highway, people keep cutting me off.
Yeah.
Every time I'm on the highway, people keep cutting me off.
Right.
All right. How does that manifest? Well, I'm going at the velocity, the right velocity, and you're like, ooh, right. Right velocity. And everyone else is just going reckless and, ooh, attitudes, writing them down. And, oh, what are your thoughts about it when they cut you off? Well, they just have no consideration. They are not respectful. They are, so you're writing all those out. Ooh, what are the emotions when it scares me, and I feel, I'm not being seen, and right?
Mm-hmm.
So then all of those, you want to flip them. So, Driving is like a river, and there's currents that just come and go so easily in front of you, swirling, inviting you to go along, you know, or anything that totally flips it. For example, when someone gets in front of her, she feels it's lack of respect, right? So maybe there it's like someone comes close to accompany me, you know, they want to make a connection, and then they go along, kind of like a wink, you know. A
So
wink.
Laura, did you feel like I flipped it like she was just talking about in your case?
You did a pretty good job, yeah. And what I was just thinking was metaphor. You know, you just brought in a lot of metaphor, and you did that, Paul. I noticed that you did that with the rocks, the small steps, and the stream, and crossing, and not knowing what's on the other side. Yeah, I thought you did that pretty well.
All right. Well, I guess I did.
And it's the same as that stress metaphor, right? Stress is your heart pounding. Your heart pounding means, you know, there's not enough blood in the system. Your heart pounds and excitement expands, bringing so much oxygen for you to be ready for it, you know, ready for the challenge. It's exciting. Yeah. Life feels alive.
Right.
So you're flipping the metaphor that they have, right? The attitude.
Yeah, their attitude. You're flipping the attitude from something bad to why not? You know, why not if people wink at you on the highway, you know? Especially the quick
other possibilities.
Sporty, charming ones are the you know, the handsome little Audis kind of thing. Yeah, I'm trying to see with this. She was mad, of course, with her. The thing is like when you're in the middle of the session, your notes are just, I don't know if you can see them, but they're you know.
I think I'll have to type, otherwise I won't be able to read my own handwriting. Seriously.
Well, the good thing is you're gonna do the questionnaire and immediately do the session with them. Mm-hmm. So I actually take each box, I ask, what is a physical manifestation? We look only at that and we flip them together. So I'll say, okay, so if it's heavy, you know, now your legs are feeling lighter and lighter. You feel floaty, like, you know, just going with it. Okay, you know, then you have a numbing. Now you're, you know, there's a lightness to it. There's a speediness to your hand instead of, you know, whatever it is. You're slowly playing with those.
So you're doing this all in trance then, this whole session?
Well, while you're doing the interview, it's a normal interview, asking you everything. And you're agreeing with them that what you say as the flipping isn't something that they're like, oh no, I don't like water. Don't give me water because I'm afraid of water. Okay, I'm not using water analogies, right? Okay, I'll use feathers.
You're like flipping it right there, and then you reflip it in the session.
I flip it right there, and I write down what I flip. I am literally writing down, this is what they say. I am writing down how we're going to flip it.
Okay.
And I tell them, lay down, start relaxing, and I start saying, now notice your eyes, releasing the muscles. You know, give them a 4-minute relaxation, and then say, and as your body continues to relax, as you listen to my voice, you know now that, and I start, datum I wrote down.
So you've done the whole interview. Now you're doing the relaxation and the flipping, but you have the time during the interview to check on the flip. Like if they don't like escalators, you make sure damn well you don't take them down an escalator.
Exactly. No, and I'm taking each box. The first box is physical manifestation. They give it to me. I write down the flip right after that first part.
Okay. Right after they finish the whole sequence of questions.
No, each one by one.
Okay.
Physical manifestations, flip it. Kind of check with them, make sure they're okay with any of the wording.
Mm-hmm.
Thinking patterns, flip it. Emotional patterns, flip it. History, more than flipping there, you're finding out what meaning they got to it. You know, the disease got smack in the middle. It took everything from me. The disease was a gift. It came exactly when it was needed. there was an unconscious call and it appeared, and now you realize that it was actually there to help you grow.
Okay. That makes sense. I think I missed that part when you were talking earlier about doing that with them to get their agreement, and then in trance do that.
Yeah.
I missed that. So that makes it seem a little easier.
That's what I was talking about. I'm like, do you sit silently? Write out your stuff while they're like, talking through it a little bit with them.
Yeah. You're saying, wow, I'm hearing this. So if the opposite, if I was doing the negative, ions of that, because you just told me all the if I was balancing its opposite, and then a lot of times they'll start laughing. They're like, oh yeah, right, you're gonna feed me that. Get to them in hypnosis, and they're like, wow, that actually made sense.
Yeah.
It's
After you put it all together.
true. It is really true, because I've often had conversations, because I do an intake form and then I do an intake to watch their body react, because I highlight questions then ask them again. I tell them that too on the phone. I say, I may ask you questions again, because the body can't lie. The mind can play all kinds of tricks. Mm-hmm. And then you watch them and they don't buy it. And later in the session, true.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And the subconscious makes relationships that are logical, illogical. Every time you feel the pain, you remember how happy you are.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. And the subconscious, you're like, oh yeah, it's just an attention. Yeah, that makes sense. Logic and logic, but conscious, unconscious will just combine and go, oh yeah, okay, that makes sense.
So if we didn't finish, can we reconnect with the individual and continue? But I don't have their phone number.
Do we do Zoom?
You can, if you guys, you can connect to the same Zoom. I don't know if you'll be able to do recording, but you can just record with your phones as well. Yeah, just make sure no one else is on it. But this number is ours. You can Zoom, or you can
there's also Skype
or FaceTime.
That's right, Skype. Yeah.
Did I send everybody the list of contacts?
No, I didn't get it.
I think it's on Canvas, isn't it?
Oh, okay.
Canvas. Okay, I'll send an email with it too, so you guys.
Okay.
Everybody has contacts.
That was interesting.
Yeah, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I will put on Canvas. I'm going to see how to do it. I want to have some privacy. I have a collection, and I'm making a collection of video with real clients that are allowing me to film for my students. But I want it to be in a way that, you guys are free to listen to them and to see them. I don't want them to extend, of course, because this is just for this, and people's private issues, and they're totally okay with you guys listening to it. So there's a session I have for this session 2. I explained a little while you guys were coming in. I've actually recorded all the sessions with this person. He has MS. We've done 19 sessions together. But some of the sessions, the recordings did not go well. We were not using Zoom. So he's trying to tweak the recording. We're doing an exchange. He's doing all the video for me. So hopefully he'll have it done in the next day or 2, because there's an area of this session that gets all muffled and we don't know why. He's going to try to fix it. And I'll be posting that on so that you guys could see a session, a full session.
Did you do that in person, that session?
I did it via Skype.
Oh, okay, interesting.
Yeah, or FaceTime. We did it on FaceTime.
Okay.
Yeah, so you'll see it. Again, when I was doing that session, I knew I was going to use the sessions with him for the teaching. So during the session, I was kind of teaching him at the same time. So I gave him a little more explanation than I would with most clients.
Okay.
That was addressing to him and to my virtual students that I knew I would have at some point. And you will also hear, I make reference to Dalke because I met this person in the Dalke training. So I was remember how Dalke talks about the law of polarity. Okay. Kind of references because he knows of Dalke.
Okay.
Okay, any other questions?
I'd like to make a comment.
Yeah.
just how powerful, because, you know, no one ever asked those questions. Just how powerful the question is, because I found myself answering the questions Jamie gave to me. And I don't think I would have ever taken that perspective if that question hadn't been asked.
Yeah, yeah. We're going to go, as we said, path to health. We're going to go deep into the disease.
Yeah, nice. Thank you.
I have a comment.
Yes.
I love your outline. It instantly gave me, though I've never done this type of session, well, I've done, but I haven't done this session. I knew where I was going before I got there, and it's very helpful. And then I even found myself going into hypnosis before Carlos, which was, you know, it's like, if you want them to go there, you go there first, and then they'll join. Well, your outline was terrific. I can hardly wait to get the rest of it and then find somebody to operate on and play with their brain.
That's why any issue you can just say, can I ask you some questions? Kind of a coaching call, you know, just take
Oh,
all.
very good. Thanks. That filled out one, are you going to post that on Canvas, the one that's filled out?
Yes, yes. I'll
Perfect.
Great.
Very helpful.
All right.